The sun dipped below the horizon, casting shades of orange and purple across the sky as Emily adjusted her scarf. She glanced at her husband, Chris, who was focused on the winding road ahead. Their trip to his cousin's wedding was supposed to be a relaxing getaway, but the unexpected clunking noise from the car had turned the journey into a stressful ordeal. "That doesn't sound good," Chris muttered, his knuckles tightening on the steering wheel. Emily frowned. "Should we pull over?" Chris nodded, guiding the car to the shoulder. He stepped out, inspecting the engine under the dim glow of the overhead lights, his face etched with frustration. After a few minutes, he returned to the driver's seat with a grim expression. "Looks like the alternator might be shot. We're not going anywhere tonight." Emily sighed. "What now?" "There's nothing around here for miles." Chris pulled out his phone, scrolling through his contacts. "I'll call Ethan. He lives just 20 minutes from here. We can crash at his place tonight and deal with this in the morning." Emily stiffened slightly at the mention of Ethan. She had met him only once, briefly, during a family barbecue. He was Chris's best friend from college, charming, confident, and always cracking jokes. While she had no reason to dislike him, the idea of staying overnight at someone else's home felt intrusive. "Are you sure it's okay?" she asked hesitantly. Chris smiled reassuringly. "Ethan's the most easygoing guy I know. He won't mind at all." 15 minutes later, Ethan's pickup truck pulled up beside them. He stepped out, wearing a casual flannel shirt and jeans, his easy grin lighting up the night. Well, Ethan teased, clapping Chris on the back. "Breaking down just to see me? You could have called, man." Chris laughed. "Not exactly how we planned it, but yeah, here we are." Ethan turned to Emily, his grin softening. "Emily, right? Don't worry. My place isn't fancy, but it's warm, and it's got a decent couch for you guys." The drive to Ethan's house was short, but filled with banter between the two friends, their camaraderie evident in every exchanged glance and laugh. Emily, sitting quietly in the back seat, felt like an outsider peeking into a world she didn't fully understand. Ethan's home was small but cozy, with mismatched furniture that somehow worked together to create a welcoming atmosphere. A faint scent of wood smoke lingered in the air, and a dog, a golden retriever named Max, bounded up to greet them enthusiastically. "Max, down, boy," Ethan said, scratching the dog behind the ears. "He's friendly, just a little too friendly." Emily smiled, kneeling to pet the dog. "He's adorable. Make yourselves at home," Ethan said, leading them inside. He quickly set about grabbing some blankets and pillows from the closet while Chris helped Emily settle in. The evening passed in a blur of conversation. Ethan insisted on whipping up a quick dinner, throwing together a surprisingly good pasta dish, while Chris recounted their misadventure on the road. "I swear," Ethan said, shaking his head as he poured them each a glass of wine, "Chris has the worst luck with cars. Remember that time in college when your car died in the middle of nowhere, and we had to hitch a ride with that guy who had a pet snake in his truck?" Chris groaned. "Don't remind me. Emily doesn't need more reasons to think I'm hopeless." Emily laughed softly. "I wouldn't say hopeless. Just challenged when it comes to vehicles." As the night wore on, Chris received an unexpected call from his office. He stepped outside to take it, and when he returned, his face was tense. "There's an issue at work," he said, glancing at Emily apologetically. "I need to handle it right away, but I'll be back first thing in the morning." Emily's stomach dropped. "You're leaving?" "I'm sorry," he said, squeezing her hand. "It's just a few hours. Ethan will keep you company." Though hesitant, Emily nodded. Chris promised to call once he reached the office, kissed her on the forehead, and was gone. The silence that followed was awkward, punctuated only by the faint crackling of the fireplace. Ethan cleared his throat. "You want some tea? Or maybe coffees?" "Tea would be nice," Emily said softly. As Ethan busied himself in the kitchen, Emily glanced around the living room. Framed photos of Ethan's travels lined the shelves, a snowy mountain peak, a bustling marketplace in Morocco, a serene beach at sunset. "Are these all yours?" she asked when he returned with 2 steaming mugs. Ethan nodded, handing her a cup. "Yeah. Photography's been a passion of mine since college. It's how I unwind." Emily sipped her tea, curiosity piqued. "They're beautiful. You've been to so many places. Ethan smiled. Thanks. It's not just about the places, though. It's the stories behind them. Like that 1 inch, he pointed to a photo of a cobblestone street, was taken in Italy. I got lost in Venice for 3 hours and ended up stumbling into a festival. Best detour of my life. Emily chuckled, feeling some of her unease melt away. They spent the next hour talking about travel, photography, and the little joys of life that often go unnoticed. Ethan's passion was contagious, and Emily found herself opening up about her own interests. I've always loved photography, she admitted, but I never really pursued it. Life just got in the way. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her thoughtfully. It's never too late to start. You've got an eye for detail. Notice my photos right away. That's half the battle. Emily smiled, a flicker of excitement sparking in her chest. By the time the clock struck midnight, the awkwardness of earlier had dissolved. They sat in comfortable silence, the fire casting a warm glow over the room. Thanks for keeping me company, Emily said quietly. Ethan waved her off. Your family by extension. No thanks needed. When Chris returned the next morning, he found Emily and Ethan laughing over breakfast. Max sprawled at their feet. Looks like you two survived without me, he joked, sitting down to join them. Emily smiled at him, her heart lighter than it had been in months. It was an unexpected night, but a good one. As they packed up and prepared to leave, Ethan handed Emily a small notebook. What's this? She asked. Call it a nudge, he said with a wink. For when you're ready to pick up that camera. Driving away, Chris glanced at her. So, how was your night? Emily looked out the window, clutching the notebook tightly. It was inspiring,